What in the world? Why did that just do that? Hey Zach, how's it going?
Hey, Matt. I'm good. How are you, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad. See
Audio,
some
video coming through all right?
Yeah, yeah, you're coming through. I'm a little glitchy on my end, so I'm trying to like it's more I need to shut down some stuff, I guess. Like my Outlook, I was trying to just respond to an email and it like died on me like two or three times.
I've been there. Reminds me, actually, I'm gonna do a quick Wi-Fi speed test on myself here because I was having some internet issues myself last time I did one of these and haven't really kept up with it. Oh yeah, we're good. Kind of internet speed you running over there?
Uh, hmm. It just depends. I normally I'm in like the 300s, I think. I feel like. Um,
You cut out on me. Maybe that's
yeah,
ironic.
yeah, that's what I said. I think I've got some stuff going on in the background. It's more like hardware, not.
I think I'm good on my end. I'm
Okay.
running 350 megabytes per second, so I think I should be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're. Um. Oh, I'm at 311,
Okay.
so I think it's more of a. I need to close out some stuff running in the background, I guess.
Sure. You get a chance, Matt. Let's look through the slides real quick, do a screen share. Don't mind.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just I mean, really though, like Teams itself is it takes a it's a workhorse in terms of how much like memory and compute it uses.
Yep. I get it.
All right, let's see. Make sure I got the right one. Sorry, I've got
Good evening, Kira.
There we go.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Are you seeing like my slideshow or
I'm
my...
seeing presenter mode.
All right, let me stop sharing, reshare. There we go. Now we should be rocking.
Now we're good. Thank you,
All right.
man.
Now re-engage. And then we got the program overview.
Can you go back to the first slide real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure those questions were loaded up there.
Oh,
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Yep, I got same slides there, so I think we're good to go.
And then we updated it with the most recent grad pick. Have our, and then our updated. No, that dang it! That's what I was afraid of. We've got the updated list. I need to. I've reverted back to a previous. Where's the one? Let me find the one that. Just give me 30 seconds.
No worries. Here, where are you calling from tonight? No worries. Well, appreciate having you on, and we're expecting many more. So it won't just be you answering the questions this evening, but glad that you're here, and we'll get started in just under 10 minutes or so. Hey, Claire.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
Doing well.
All right. Now we got the right one. That's what, like, you start making copies of copies, and then the next thing you know, you've got 4 different versions of the same PowerPoint. All right. So now we're with our up-to-date information, 2019 through 2026. Had a couple more states filled in and everything. And
It's always
then,
good. I still notice the hole that is West Virginia, which is always hard for me as a two-time alma mater, but we'll get there.
and then we've got the instructional teams, uh, employers, by section leaders, and then this is just fall, spring, cardinal choice, electives, and I've updated certificates and kind of switched a few electives out.
Nice.
International trip with some, more dynamic photos there.
Yeah.
And then Claire, here's your application deadlines. So after the international trip, we'll kind of hand it back over to you for some of this stuff. And then, so you've got your 3 slides here and then remaining questions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Claire, you ready for Derby week?
I am. I wish we got the whole week off, but I'm going to Oaks,
Yeah, that'll be
which is
fun.
going to be exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get some rest the night before. The post time being, what is it, 8:40 or something?
I know it's going to be a late night. Yeah. And I ran the half this past weekend, so I'm still recovering and like I can't sit for too long or my body tenses up and locks up. So hopefully we're not sitting the whole time because that will not be good. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, enjoy, and hopefully the weather cooperates for you and for everyone this weekend. So
Yeah, I hope so. I check it every day and it gets warmer and warmer. So
well, that's good. What about
hopefully.
I'm showing no rain, at least on my Apple phone right now. So
Mhm.
we're gonna knock on something there because that would be nice. Yeah, high of 60, no, 56 on Saturday, 59 on Friday. Hey, as long as there's no rain, I think it'll work out.
Exactly.
That was my thought process when I went to Derby a few years ago. Hey, Peyton, how are you?
And Zach, I'll let you know, I got the list kind of late, but there was almost, I think there were 39 students registered.
I saw that.
So
That's exciting. We'll look forward to having many of them join us this evening, including Ayana. Hey, Ayana, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to hear from you again. Well, again, if you're just joining us, we're still about 5 or so minutes out. Appreciate you logging on early, making sure that you got audio and visual and everything else is working properly tonight. I will introduce my colleagues here shortly, along with the session here just after 7 o'clock Eastern time, so just a few minutes remaining. What about you, Matt? Any big Derby plans?
no, not this year. I'll probably load some money to lose in my Twin Spires account. But besides that, I think that might be about it.
Well, like I said, should be a great weekend, and I know it's certainly an exciting one for everyone here in Louisville. And I know we'll have a few folks on the call today, I think from outside of Louisville, and I hope you all, regardless of where you are, have a great Derby weekend. Hey, Luke, good evening. If you're just joining us, we'll get started here in just a few minutes' time. We are expecting several folks joining us this evening and appreciate several of them logging on now. But we'll get started in about 2 to 3 minutes. I think we're calling for some more rain tomorrow, though, which is unfortunate here in Louisville for those of us who hoping to get a baseball game in. But my kids may be disappointed yet again. Again, a good evening. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in about 60 seconds. Appreciate you logging on and appreciate you being here tonight. We are just about at the 7 o'clock hour, so I am going to ease us into the conversation tonight and first begin by welcoming you to the Online MBA Information Session. My name is Dr. Zac Goldman, and I am the Program Director for the Online MBA, and I'm also your host for tonight's session. So really excited that you're here, really excited that you're interested in the Online MBA program, and there's so much to cover and talk about tonight that I'll jump right into it here in just a few moments. But I do want to take a moment and recognize two of my colleagues who are with me on the call as well. Matt Elder and Claire Ansman, two members of the College of Business with me, and I'm very thankful that they're here. They'll be helping answer questions in the chat and also running some of our slides and doing some of those things behind the scenes. So I appreciate them. But also want to encourage you, if you have questions tonight, we'll definitely have time to take those on the call live and interact in a more traditional way. If you want to unmute and weigh in that way, But also, we do have a functioning chat. So if you have questions that you want to drop in there throughout the session tonight, we are looking at approximately 1 hour for the session. I will make sure, though, that several of those minutes, especially near the end, are saved for Q&A. So however you want to ask your questions, however you want to get more information, please do so, because we would love for you to leave the session tonight not only knowing more about the online MBA, but making sure that any questions that you have about this program at the University of Louisville, you have a chance to hear me personally or others on the call address that or those questions. So excited again that you're here tonight. Also do want to make just a quick note that this is a recorded call. So please be mindful of that, but also know that if you drop the call or have to step out for any moments, that you will get an access, or you will get a copy of the recording, I believe, as part of your registration for this event tonight. So thank you all for, again, joining us. And Matt, if you'll go ahead and transition to the next slide, please. I know tonight's session is really about answering your questions, but to get us started, I do have a couple of questions that I want you to be thinking about tonight. In fact, I would encourage you, for any of these thoughts that you have, again, drop them in the chat or simply weigh in, unmute. Would love to hear from you this evening. But I really just have two questions for you as we go into this session. And I am going to cover a lot of frequently asked questions, so you don't have to. Sometimes it's hard to know what to ask when you're still in these early stages of the program, or you're just getting interested in the program, or you maybe have been admitted but you haven't started yet. There's a lot of people on the call tonight who are in different positions, different scenarios. So I'll try to answer a lot of the FAQs this evening. But these two, I think, are really pressing. What are you interested in? Why are you interested in an MBA? I would love to hear those thoughts. And that one in particular, if you have ideas or comments or feedback that you would love to share about that question, I would love to invite it right there in the chat, because I think you and your peers, those on the call, may have some common interest tonight, and we could certainly speak to those here in just a little bit. So why are you interested in an MBA? I would love to hear your feedback on that question in the chat. But also, what questions do you have about the program? And again, throughout the call, I'll try to answer the FAQs, ones that I know come up quite a bit, but I will also make sure to save some time to addressing those. So any thoughts that you have around these two questions, please, I want to encourage tonight a lively and active chat, because I've got two incredible colleagues here with us tonight who can help facilitate your conversation there, while I'm also sharing some information about the program. Matt, next slide, please. All right, so let's start with some basics. And again, I know several of you on the call, having looked at some of the information from our registration for tonight's event, several of you are already admitted students, which is fantastic. We love having some students who are coming into the program, who've already been admitted into the program, and who are preparing to start, which our next start date is this upcoming fall in August. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But I know some of you are interested, you're curious, you have questions, and that's certainly a great place to be as well. Because that's exactly what sessions like tonight are designed for, is to help you get answers to those questions and help you learn more about a program that is a big commitment. It's certainly one that it should not be taken lightly, but at the same time, the number one question that I get, probably in some version or another as the program director for the last 7 years of this program, has been, can I do it? Is this something that I can realistically accomplish? And usually what people mean by that is, can it fit into my schedule? Can it work around me? Can it work around what I have to deal with at work or at school or at home, life in general? I've got kids, I've got a full-time commitment, I've got all kinds of other things. You name it. This program now, we're nearing 1,000 alumni. We have several hundred actively enrolled students, so we get this question quite a bit in many variations. And the short answer is absolutely. In my opinion, yes, this is a program that can be achieved and accomplished by any number of professionals with any number of backgrounds. And I do want to stress that point for a moment, because the MBA, to me, is one of the most diverse degrees in the graduate education space. You're going to learn a lot about different areas, different subject matters. If you pursue this degree, you're going to learn about accounting and finance, but you'll also learn about marketing and management. You'll also learn about things like econ and strategy and operations. It's a very diverse degree in terms of what you learn and why you learn it. And the reason for that is business is diverse. When you think about how any business runs, you need to know how to market things. You need to know how to communicate those things to a broader audience, whether it be services or goods or products, etc. But you also need to know how the operations work and the supply chains for any particular organization, why that's so important. You need to know the strategy behind how a company is managed. You need to know how it fits into the broader economic point of view in terms of where it's at economically, micro and macro. There's so many important concepts that an MBA will teach you and advance your knowledge of. But I do want to start by the fact of just a brief history lesson here, because this is a program that's been in existence, as I was saying earlier, for about 7 years. Started in 2019. And I was very fortunate. Prior to being the program director, I was a faculty member in some of those original planning conversations. And I remember them like they were yesterday. One of the things that we were very interested in doing was building a program that was flexible, that had the flexibility we knew a lot of people were looking for. Again, this is pre-pandemic, but we knew we needed something with flexibility. But at the same time, the U of L and the MBA degree at the university is one that has a high standard, a high bar, one that is considered very well regarded in the community. So we wanted to offer a program that had the same kind of rigor and quality of the program. And so quality and flexibility were kind of the pillars by which this program was built around. And from that, you can see, and I won't read to you all the bullet points tonight. I think that's a bit redundant. But one of the things that you'll see is that flexibility infused its way into many of the core features. For instance, we are an asynchronous program, meaning there are no required deadlines, or there are no required login times, I should say. There are some deadlines. I'll talk about that in a moment. There are no required login times. You don't have to be in front of your computer at a certain time, at a certain day. That's a synchronous program. There are those out there. We are not one of them. You do have, however, deadlines. We do make sure that there's some structure in place, and you're working with a community of folks, and I'll talk more about them in just a moment. And that helps to ensure that happens. So everybody's still working roughly the same time throughout various weeks over several semesters in the program. But at the same time, you have flexibility when you're doing so, which is really a nice feature in today's age, especially with how fast everything is moving, how much everything is changing, and how busy people are. We think that this is a really important part of being successful in the online MBA program. One of the ways we do that is to make sure that you're only taking one class at a time. So for the majority of your time in the program, your core classes, you are only taking one class at a time. And so while these courses do go pretty quickly, they're 5 weeks long. And so you can think about it, 5 weeks from now is, just starting June. And it's like, well, June will be here before we know it. And yet you finish a class between now and then. That's a pretty tight timeline, but it's doable when you're only taking one course at a time. So you're spending a lot of hours, a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends working on these things, and lunch breaks and everything else. Wherever you have the flexibility, you can do that. And you're doing it over a concentrated period of weeks. One of the things that speak to the quality piece that I shared with you earlier about the other pillar, we have the same faculty that we use in our seated MBA program. So these classes are built and led by full-time faculty at the College of Business. I stress that because you do need to do your homework. If you're, especially in the early phases of looking into programs, a lot of programs, especially some of those bigger brands that are promoted and highlighted in some very interesting ways, go and inquire about where are their faculty actually from, and ask if whether, and I won't mention names, I'm not going to do that on the call tonight, but I do think that's important to know, is that am I learning from the faculty of that school, of that university, or am I being outsourced and looked at in other ways? This university, the University of Louisville, very much believes in quality, and we very much believe in an experience that rivals any other degree that you would get at the graduate level. And so this program was built, again, with quality and flexibility in mind. I'm going to talk about some of these other points in just a moment, including the global trips, which is a really exciting part of our program. It is an optional component to our program, so I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. And also our electives tonight. I'll talk about how you can specialize this degree around a number of your interests. All that to come here in the agenda, but hope that this overview gives you a sense of the program. And Matt, we'll go ahead to the next slide, please. I know I saw some things coming in the chat there as well, and so I appreciate Matt and Claire chiming in where they can on that, but I'll also be sure to take those questions for any that we don't get to in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about the people side of things, though, because I do think that's such an important part of the online MBA experience at the University of Louisville. I said earlier, you learning communities, in that you have a chance to learn with a community of people. That's true for both your peers, your colleagues that you go through this program with, but it's certainly true as well for the faculty. And I'll speak about both of them in that order. So let's talk first about the peers. We only operate in the online MBA program with a cohort model. And again, if you're interested in knowing more about that, I'm happy to take some of those questions. But we only have 2 intakes a year, fall and spring. And there's a reason behind that. I have this conversation a lot, especially with people at the university, but even, colleagues at other universities. Why do you only have 2 start dates? Don't you know you should start as many people as you can, year round? Well, yes and no. There's benefits certainly to having multiple start dates throughout the year. But there's also benefits to being pretty selective with the intakes that we have so that we can build community, so that we can have these cohorts that come together and that go through the program as a group, as a team. And that's really exciting, especially in an online world. My colleagues, and I'm sure Matt has probably heard me say it no shortage of 1,000 times, but my colleagues hear me say a lot, online but not alone. Online but not alone. And you'll hear me say it probably a couple more times on this call tonight. Online but not alone. And that's very much true. It's evident in really everything that we do in the online MBA program. We believe in teams. We believe in collaboration because that's what the business world requires. That's what we see is needed, is people who have these skills and who can transcend modalities, who can transcend boundaries, who can work across state lines, who can do things, that other people can't always do. We are training the next generation of leaders, truly business leaders who can do that. And so I'm really proud of that part of our program, that we do have people from all over the country, as you'll see here in just a moment, who are working as part of this program and who are collaborating with peers in this program. It's a really cool feature that we have. And you do have a team that you get assigned. We'll talk more about that once you get started in the program. But we're very intentional about how we do that. And we build a lot of planning into the way we configure teams and then how we support those teams going forward. So that's a big part of our program. I'll also say that it's a really important part, I think, of learning. We learn from other people. That's always been the case. And I know, and I'll talk a little bit about AI here in just a minute. We talk about it every day at the College of Business, so don't worry, it's going to come up here shortly anyways. But I know AI is transforming a lot of things, and I'm excited about several of those transformations. I have my concerns about other parts of it as well, but I do still think fundamentally we learn best from other human beings. Most of us can close our eyes and picture that trainer, that teacher, that mentor, that whoever that person was who helped shape us into the people we are today. That is still fundamentally true. Nothing in that regards has changed, even though AI has certainly disrupted a lot of things, including in higher education. But at the same point, I think we learn from other people, and I think we learn best when we're surrounded by people who are different than us. And so, just thinking like groupthink, and hey, I went to school with these same 4 people. I heard the same things they did for 15 years growing up. That can sometimes limit the experience, the exposure, the perspective that we can leverage and that we can develop. Whereas if we're working in teams with, say, I'm working in a team with an engineer and with a person in sales and with a person who has a marketing background, and then a person who is trained in let's say, organizational behavior or something to that extent. You have all kinds of different backgrounds that you can then start to learn from while you're working in teams. And I think that's, again, a really important part of being in a cohort model and learning from your peers while you're also learning with your faculty and your staff. So Matt, next slide, please. All right, so I'm not going to read these to you, and I am going to briefly just acknowledge them because I think very highly of our alums, but these are 3 alums who are featured here on our screen. Sarah, Raymond, and Michael have deep appreciation for all 3 of them, know all 3 personally, and each of them, in their own words, spoke to why it's so important to learn in teams and what the cohort model meant to them. Again, I'm moving quickly here on this slide just because we're going to cover a couple other things, but this is certainly something you can go back to and revisit or take a screenshot of, etc., because I think they say it better than even I could in terms of what it means to learn from their peers and why that's such an important part of an experience like an MBA degree online. Matt, next slide, please. All right, the last slide I'll mention about our students and about this community of learners that you are coming to be a part of here in the coming months is the fact that, again, they're all over and they come from all different backgrounds. It is something that I am very proud about, in particular with the online MBA, that we have students and alumni from really every profession, every industry, every area of professional work that you can imagine at this point. And I think that speaks to several things. Number one, speaks to the power of an MBA degree. It's something that regardless of whether you have a background in music, which I know several people in our students who have come in with backgrounds in the arts or the musics or the creative performances, etc. I know people who come in from very traditional corporate backgrounds and have that kind of perspective and they want to get an MBA. I know a lot of our students who come in from kind of non-traditional or even nonprofit businesses and backgrounds, and they're looking for their MBA. I know people in higher education who come in and they're looking for an MBA. People in healthcare. I can go on and on and on and on. And the reason I say that is because regardless of who you are on the call tonight, what your background is, I can promise you this, the MBA does have something to offer you. The degree can not only help elevate your career, can transform what your outcomes and future projections look like in terms of career earnings, in terms of opportunities, in terms of if you're interested in transitioning careers. There's so many different ways that this degree can help and set you apart. But I also think personally, it transforms who you are and how you think. And that's the educator in me. I'm more interested in that. Even though I love seeing these career outcomes, I love seeing these success stories. I love even more seeing our students learn. And when those moments happen and they start thinking about problems differently, or they start looking at different challenges in a new perspective or a new way because of what they're learning, that to me is so exciting. That to me is making the MBA degree a really rewarding and fulfilling experience to facilitate and to direct and to be a part of. I also get to teach in that program. I'll talk about that later sometime. But I am very, very grateful for what the MBA has done for our students and our alumni across the United States. Still got to get West Virginia, though. There's a couple states we haven't checked. Love my alma mater. I'm a two-time alum of WVU. You can see it's really one of our only states remaining there in the mid-Atlantic that we need to check. So hopefully we'll get a couple of students from West Virginia soon that can help us round out our map. Matt, next slide. All right, before I talk about our faculty, because I can talk a lot about our faculty, and as a member of the faculty, I can share with you all kinds of details. Whatever questions you have about faculty, I can answer just about all of them. It just depends on the level of honesty that you want. No, in all sincerity, we have an incredible group of faculty, and I'm fortunate to be a part of that. But I want to make sure and pause just quickly, because I know I saw several good things popping up in the chat, but I wasn't able to read them. Matt, any questions that we should answer at this point or questions that may come up here in a little bit? Should we keep going? What do you think?
Most of that was everyone sharing why they were interested in getting their MBA. There was one question about when the remedial stats is available as far as timing, but that's the only question so far in the chat.
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. I think that was Todd maybe that asked that question. Appreciate that. I'll address that in just a moment, but just want to take a moment to acknowledge the different backgrounds and things that are referenced here. I didn't get a chance to read them when I was talking earlier. And so I love seeing the different perspectives that are already represented on this call. And if you didn't get a chance to chime in there, I would love to hear from you as well. I think it's great to see all the different perspectives, mindsets, and backgrounds that are drawn to the MBA degree. But to Todd's question, I think really great one here, our remedial stats. Really what we call this is what he's referencing for folks who may not know, we do offer a free resource, and we think about it internally as that a program, a class essentially that is non-credit, but yet it does give you an opportunity, particularly for those who have non-quantitative backgrounds. And some of you I know on the call may have that. Because the MBA is fairly quantitative, you're going to have stats, you're going to have accounting, you're going to have finance, you're going to have other courses where you do need to have a pretty stable, pretty baseline level of mathematics. And again, some of us, it's been a few years since we took any college math courses or anything like that, or statistics, anything such as that. So we do offer a course. It is available to our students prior to them starting. Typically, Todd, we usually offer that at least twice in the 3 to 4 months leading up to the start of the program. And so I know that's nondescript in terms of actual dates. I don't have those in front of me at the moment, but typically those are going to be held starting around 3 to 4 months prior to. So if you're starting spring 27, I think I saw, if you're starting in spring 27, that is a January start date. I know academics were weird. Most people don't think January and think spring. That's what we do. But so you would have those opportunities, those resources for statistics starting to be made available in October, maybe late September, October certainly, and November as well. Yeah, great question. All right, then let me go ahead and transition. I love seeing a couple more people chiming in there with their backgrounds. Please continue to do that. But let me talk about the backgrounds of our faculty for just a moment. When I say this, and I hope that you sense the sincerity in it, because I've taught now at multiple universities, small ones, big ones, kind of in betweens. I can tell you this truly and genuinely. The University of Louisville has some of the very best faculty that I've ever worked with, and I'm sincere in that. Not only are these people incredibly brilliant and smart, all of our faculty are well accomplished in their own rights, with their academic credentials, many of them with their own professional experiences and backgrounds, particularly being in the business school. Many of them have gone on to do some consulting work with really high-end organizations. Some of them have certainly done, other careers as well. We have some, I'm thinking off the top of my head, somebody like Michael Wade, who teaches their managerial accounting class, served in the Pentagon, for several years. I mean, we just got some incredible group of faculty members with very impressive backgrounds. But what I love most about our program and about the faculty that we have is that it's a team effort. So this illustration here, this picture you see on your screen is a great reference point for that. So Dr. Ryan Quinn teaches our MBA 656 course, which is a required class, Leadership and Organizational Behavior. His background is both of these things, leadership and organizational behavior. He's well-regarded researcher, has published on leadership many times, highly sought after speaker, really well accomplished in our academic world, and has certainly translated that professionally in so many ways. He is the lead instructor for this course. He facilitates it, he builds it, he revises it, he does all the things to manage it. But because we are a fairly large program, we also have team members who contribute to the success of our students. We refer to these individuals often as section leaders. So you can see here section 50 leader, section 51 leader, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go into all the details of these people that you see on the screen, but let me just say something about the collective group. These are all also incredibly accomplished professionals. And I think it's important that you realize that, because this to me is the secret sauce. This is why the online MBA has been as successful as it has been over the last 6 and 7 years, is the fact that we have incredible faculty with incredibly accomplished academic backgrounds, but also we have a great group of professionals who help us facilitate the course, again, online, but not alone. And this group here is a well-accomplished group of leaders because the course is leadership and organizational behavior. But take this into a different context for a moment. Think for example, accounting. You want to learn accounting because you need to know it. It's part of an MBA degree, but it's also part of business, right? Where does the money go? How is it spent? All that kind of stuff is important for any business professional, especially one who's aspiring to be a leader, needs to know about. So you're going to learn from people like Michael Wade, who I referenced earlier, or Dr. Julie Wong, who is part of our core full-time faculty in the online MBA. But you're also going to learn from people who are real accountants, who are doing real accounting work in organizations and working in companies like Humana and Brown-Forman. And I think actually, Matt, next slide may have some more reminders if I blanking here on a couple of our organizations. There we go. Humana, Yum Brands, GE, U.S. Army, you name it. These are just a handful of the ones represented, particularly here local in Louisville. But we have over 50 section leaders as part of our online MBA program, and they come from us from all kinds of backgrounds. And I think that's really special. I think if you ask around, you look around, and you're shopping other online MBA programs or just online graduate degrees in general, this is not a common model. And I think that's to the credit of the UofL leadership team and the willingness to continue to invest in bringing in great talent to make that part of the program. And it's certainly to our students' benefit, in my opinion. So love to shout out and recognize both our core full-time faculty members and our section leaders. They come together in what I refer to as our instructional teams. Those instructional teams truly do make a difference when you're trying to learn online. When you have multiple people who you can turn to, or you can talk to, you can ask them questions. I'll just give you a typical week. You have a typical week that runs from a Monday through a Sunday. A lot of your assignments will be due on Sunday evenings. You will have some exceptions to that, so don't quote me on it because I know a few faculty who prefer different deadlines. But You're going to have that is a typical week. You'll have your faculty are available, let's say several nights a week. They'll host live sessions that you can jump on and ask them questions. And then you got your section leaders who are available on many of the other nights a week. I know for my own class, there is, I think, typically 1 to 2 nights a week where we're not having live sessions. And those are optional. Again, so if you're struggling and you're like, hey, I got this upcoming assignment, I don't know what to do. Well, jump online, let's talk about it. Those are the kinds of things that we offer to our students because we truly do believe in the online but not alone mentality. And it really does align with how we have built this program from the very beginning. Matt, next slide, please. So what does it look like just in terms of a roadmap? I think this slide here does a pretty good job, even though I do realize the font is very small. Although I discovered something not too long ago, and I'm embarrassed to say how recently it was. If you do hover over, if you're on the Microsoft Teams app in particular, I don't know if this is true for the web browser version or not, you can actually zoom in. So Matt's doing that for us, so thank you, Matt. But if you hover over his name in the bottom left corner, Matt Elder, what it says down there, there's a plus and minus arrow. At least there is on my end. And so I hope that's the case on yours. You can zoom in and do exactly what Matt is doing for us. But I appreciate Matt taking those extra steps for those of us maybe a little strained of seeing, or at least have been staring at screens all day, and that certainly helps. So thank you, Matt. I mentioned 1 course at a time, 5 weeks at a time. That was something I said back at the beginning of this session. And I just want you to see, let's focus on the first semester there for just a moment. You will start your program if you are enrolled in the online MBA. You get admitted into the program. You go through all the steps, which we kind of skipped over, and that's okay. You'll get plenty of emails about those steps getting started. But let's say we get to the beginning of the first semester. We do have, again, a start date coming up in August. So I'll use that as an example. August comes around, you'll take Applied Microeconomics for Business. That's a 5-week course. That'll run you sometime into mid-September, late September, because I think we actually start in mid-August. You'll then take my course. So I teach communication and management, and it's my background. And so I teach the second course in the sequence. You'll take that course for 5 weeks long. That runs until approximately Halloween. And then you'll take statistics and data analytics. That will run from right around Halloween to like the first or second week of December. I share that with you because I want you to see the flow, the cadence, how it works, how these come together. You're still taking, by the way, each of those classes that I just mentioned are 3 credit hours long. So you're still taking 9 credit hours a semester. Why is that important? Well, that's actually the threshold for being a full-time graduate student. So you still qualify if you are interested in student loans or other things that you may need that designation for. I know some employers, that's a big designation as well, whether you're full-time or part-time. The 9 credit hours is federal law. That is part of our full-time requirements. So you do get that designation for any reason that you may need it. But at the same time, you're only taking 1 course for 5 weeks at a time. Pretty sweet, right? It's that sweet spot. Now I'll tell you, and I told you this earlier, the 5 weeks go like that, right? If you don't monitor weeks as often as I do, I can tell you they go quick. Right. And that's something that you'll get used to as you kind of go through the first course. You start it, you're in the midst of it, you're struggling or you're doing well, whatever the outcome is. And then before you know it, you're nearing the final week. And I know there's Claire can speak to that. I know Matt has been on multiple ends of that model. And so they'll I hope will agree with me. It's a whirlwind. I've always said this whole process, this whole program is a marathon in many ways. Shout out to our mini and full marathon runners from the week at the Kentucky Derby Festival. But I suspect you didn't run the marathon this way. You don't run in sprints, right? You don't go sprint, stop, sprint, stop, sprint, stop. That's not how you run a marathon. That is essentially how you complete this program, right? Because these 5-week courses do start to feel like sprints, right? Where you're digesting a lot of information. Again, they're only 1 course, so you are focused on it, but you're taking in a lot of information, doing a lot of application, and then you conclude that course and move on to the next. And then the totality of your work does start to build very quickly over these 5 semesters. We are a 20-month program overall. So those that start in the fall of 2026, coming up here in just a few months, their anticipated graduation timeline will be May of 2028. I don't know if anybody else feels old just saying 2028, but I just felt old. So I'm just going to sit with that for a moment. But I hope this gives you a picture. And I'm sure this also invites a lot of questions, which I will pause for at this point and make sure I take those here in just a moment. But I hope this gives you a sense of how the courses are laid out, why the sequencing is the way that it is. I'm happy to take those kinds of questions because they are important. Anytime you're starting a program like this, I think it's important to have that kind of information. For instance, you'll see, Matt, if you'll scroll back up to the second semester, you'll see in that second semester, it's like, whoa, that seems daunting, right? Financial accounting, managerial accounting, contemporary financial management. Why'd you put all those together, Dr. Goldman? One, Dr. Goldman didn't do that alone. We decide these things as a faculty and as a curriculum committee. There's a lot of voting. I'll spare you the details. But we've toyed around with this a lot. We didn't start this way. We adjusted to this. We changed it. We adjusted back. We look at data a lot to make informed decisions. And so these courses build on themselves. And the short version is, even though it may seem appealing to spread out your accounting and spread out your finance and kind of get some distance in between them, the data suggests that's not actually the case. Students were struggling more the more time we put between those courses. So again, to be responsive to student needs, we try to put those together, make sure that those sequencing built on itself really well. And that's why these courses are all, again, laid out the way they are. It's very, very intentional. All right, let me pause. Let me take some questions. I'm looking at the chat. Are you able to participate in the program taking 2 classes this semester, or is it mandatory full-time? My tuition allows me to take 2 classes this semester, 6 credit hours. Great questions, Janie. I appreciate those. Happy to certainly follow up individually. But because we are a cohort model, we do try to keep people consistently moving through the program at the same time. And so we do typically follow this structure. Again, 1 class at a time, 5 weeks at a time, 9 credit hours a semester. But I don't know where you work necessarily. I suspect maybe it's U of L because we certainly have that tuition readmission policy here, but I know some employers have similar policies throughout Louisville. Yeah, I know all about that policy, Jenny. So if you're interested and want to have a follow-up conversation about that, I can certainly set aside some time for you and anybody else who's in that situation. But we are somewhat limited in how we structured that. But we do work very closely with people, particularly U of L employees and others who have those kinds of circumstances. Let me see. Next question. Are the classes recorded or online attended? Apologies if you missed that. No apologies necessary. Yeah, any of our live sessions are recorded. We always make sure that those are accessible regardless of your availability. So live sessions typically are a combination of things. They can be Q&As, they can be updates, they can be kind of going over upcoming assignments. I use them to also cover some modern relevant events. So again, I teach management and communication, whatever's going on in the news for that period of time, from a business standpoint, I'll highlight and pull out a couple of examples and show where these concepts that I'm teaching about, where they show up, in real time. And so I try to use some of my live sessions for that. But yeah, all those are recorded. The main materials, though, what you'll be learning from and working with quite often, again, is built asynchronously. So we have a lot of interactive modules, things that you'll be clicking, completing, engaging in various ways. We're very fortunate. We have some great instructional designers who take all these great ideas that we have as faculty and present them and package them in ways that are really interactive. And so shout out to our Delphi team who does an incredible job of putting all that together for us. So you have a lot of materials that you can interact with, again, at your own time, with us included in there. So you got a lot of videos and stuff embedded into those materials. But then, yes, we do have those interactive sessions live that we host several times a week that are recorded for people who can't make them. Let's see, Malcolm. Cardinal choice. I'm about 2 slides away. So give me 1 second there. I'll definitely get to cardinal choice, but it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Let's see, make sure I got the rest of them here. Peyton, what is the cost per credit hour? Great question. We'll cover that here in just a minute as well. We are 45 total credit hours. So you could, Mike just fell off the table over there. Hopefully everybody can still hear me. We are 45 total credit hours. The tuition is, I believe, $38,500. There are certainly some scholarships and things available. So somebody with the calculator can do that for me, but I think it may be coming up in a couple of slides. If not, we'll definitely make sure it gets put into the chat. Absolutely. All right, great questions so far. I think I touched on most of them. If I didn't, Matt, please, Claire, either one of you help me out there. Make sure that I'm making sure I address it. Oh, here's one. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say there's one on international degree, but I'm Claire probably is going to cover that towards the end of the session.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Matt. And yes, we love obviously working with our international students. We have several of them in the College of Business, and so we will definitely highlight some of that here in just a moment. For sure. Matt, can you go to the next slide, please? One more, Matt. Sorry. There we go. Cardinal choice assignment. That was brought up just a moment ago in the chat. And it's one of the most exciting things. Now, I'm going to get to the international trip, the global trip. That's probably a little more exciting, at least for people who like to travel. But this goes throughout the entire program. So I would argue it's certainly as exciting and certainly as impactful as what those trips can be. But this is our version of essentially a capstone. Now, we don't call it that. But it's a different take altogether on how we think about capstones, because capstones, if you may recall from your undergraduate experience, it's a chance to bring all the pieces together, right? It's a chance to weave in what you're learning into a cohesive, final type of initiative, whether that be a project or presentation or whatever you may have done. I suspect many of you, if not all of you, had some version of a capstone as you finished up your undergraduate degree. And so I use that as a reference point, not to say that that's what this is, but to give you kind of a ballpark where this is coming from. The other thing that I will say that's really important to understand about the background of the cardinal choice before I explain to you the details is that it's meant to provide what the title implies, choice. So oftentimes graduate education, where I see personally, and I've studied this, I've actually researched and published on this topic several times, where I see graduate education and education in general falling short is when we lack or fail to give students choice in how they're learning and what they're applying, what they're learning to. We all have, as educators, myself included, we all have our preferences, right? Where, hey, I love teaching communication and management this way, and I like these types of assignments, and I love this type of application. Well, that's great, and that can be a big part of our pedagogy and teaching style, but that doesn't always align with every student, right? And students have different interests, they have different goals, they have, as each of you have already kind of illustrated from your backgrounds that you put in the chat, different perspectives that you bring with you to the classroom. And so we have to find a way to capture all that difference and all that flexibility, because if we just try to force everybody to do the same thing the same way, then we're losing out on what some of that uniqueness offers us, particularly what it can offer to a business. And so thus was born the cardinal choice, to give both autonomy in terms of how students are learning and what they're applying, what they're learning to, but also consistency and integration across all these classes. So how does econ fit into accounting, which fits into management, which fits into marketing, which fits into strategy, which fits into operations? All those pieces come together in some really interesting ways, but sometimes it takes an initiative like this to help make those connections and draw those dots or connect those dots together. And that's really what the cardinal choice is designed to do. So how did we do that? Well, we several years ago set out, myself, several members of the faculty, and decided to build an initiative that at least provided structured choice. Okay, because unstructured choice, and no offense to anybody who's worked at Cheesecake Factory, but Matt's also heard my Cheesecake Factory take on a couple of occasions. If you've eaten there, you know that menu is overwhelming, right? It's like a 12-page menu. It's a book. It takes a good 20 minutes to kind of sift through that. And then you got to decide, like, do I want breakfast? Do I want lunch? Do I want dinner? Salads to whatever else. And then, there's a whole nother like 4 pages for just cheesecake. It's an overwhelming amount of choice. And that same phenomenon is true for any other walk of life, including education. If we just said, hey, apply what you're learning to anything you choose and come back to us, I have unlimited choices at that point. That becomes kind of counterintuitive, counterproductive to learning, right? As educators, we still want to provide you the structure, the template, while allowing you to choose whatever it is that you're interested in within that. And so we chose 3 tracks to kind of build our template out that really do align with the MBA. So students who are interested in advancing their career. I suspect if I asked you to all turn your cameras on and raise your hand, I won't, but if I asked you to do that, I suspect many hands would be going up because you're pursuing an MBA to help advance your career. So a lot of people could choose this track if they're interested in doing so. But some of them, and we have a lot of students as well, who already have, whether they're working in it currently or desire to work in it in the future, a very specific industry that they would like to focus their work on. For instance, I myself, I am maybe I'm a tortured soul, I'm not sure, but I truly love it. I anticipate or plan to be in higher education for the rest of my career. So if I were to choose an industry, it would be education. It would be, higher education specifically, and what that looks like going forward and how I can contribute to it. That might be a track that I would pursue if I were to go back and do this myself. I think I'd probably lean in that direction. But healthcare is certainly one that we get a lot of interest in. And I think we had a few people even in the chat say that they're either in healthcare already or interested in it. That's an option that you can certainly choose as part of the industry track. So too, or any other industry that you may be interested in pursuing. The last one is a little bit more specific, but I also really love it because it's a problem solving track. It's about issues. How do we solve specific issues? And it does require you to have an issue that you would like to focus on. And that issue does need to be broad enough so that you can explore it from multiple lenses. For instance, one of the favorite ones that I've seen is individuals who have looked at things like retention before. Well, retention in any organization is a big challenge because, without it, one, you have turnover, which is obviously a problem. But certain organizations, certain industries, turnover is more acceptable, less acceptable, right? Fast food, they turn over at least twice their entire workforce typically in every year. But if you said that to, your local hospital, somebody would pass out, right? Because the HR director especially would be like, that's not going to fly. So how do you figure out what is the right amount of turnover, the right amount of retention? How do you improve retention? What are your retention efforts? That's an issue, right? That's a broad, complicated, tricky issue that you can explore from an economic point of view. What's the impact economically on turnover? You can explore it from marketing. Like, what do we need to do to market ourselves better so that we don't get this influx of turnover or retention issues? You can start to explore that from every lens imaginable. That's through the issue track. Matt, next slide, please. So once you, sorry, go back then. I thought I had one more on that. My apologies. So once you pick your track, I'll just say one more thing on this. Once you start thinking about your track, which we had a question in the chat about the pit stop session, or I'm sorry, I think the kickoff session may have been what was referenced. Either way, once you get into the program, you get started, you will meet with a member of our team to do what we call a Cardinal Choice kickoff session. This conversation basically, but tailored to you individually, where they'll ask you questions, and they'll go through your interests, and they'll go through your goals, and they'll explain these tracks in more detail. So you do that prior to the official start of the semester, which will be for us mid-August. Once you've completed that, then you go in and you actually will make your selection, which track you're wanting to focus on, and then you'll complete assignments throughout the program in that specific track. And again, we'll cover a lot more information about that during your orientation sessions, which we do a pretty extensive orientation during the first week or prior to the first week of the program. But also your advisors, your coaches will go through that as well when they meet with you personally. So I did want to make sure I addressed that because I know that was a question in the chat. So thank you for asking it. Matt, next slide now. All right, nearly done. I promise. I can feel it in my throat. So I want to pause and answer questions in a moment because anytime you talk this long, you just get tired of hearing yourself talk, especially when you're talking into a computer screen for a while. But I do want to talk about our electives, and I want to talk more specifically about the way that you can specify and tailor this degree to that of your interest. We have 5 graduate business certificates that are part of the College of Business's online MBA program and part of our graduate programs more broadly. And I love that because this is built into the curriculum, meaning you have to have elective credits to finish your MBA. But rather than just taking electives for the sake of taking electives, for those who would like to have an additional credential, one of the 5 that you see listed there, the business of healthcare, distilled spirits, franchise management, horse racing industry, and manager analytics, you can take those courses, get the graduate certificate, and satisfy your MBA requirements all at the same time. Essentially, and yes, I think this is applicable to say, even though it's kind of weird for an academic to say it, it's 2 for the price of 1. It really is. It's a chance to get your MBA also to get a recognized and official graduate certificate from the University of Louisville in one of those 5 areas while also satisfying your MBA degree requirements. So that's a pretty cool feature about our program that we have that I think a lot of our students take a lot of interest in, especially as they get near the end of the program and they think about what they want to do. Those first 4 are pretty, I don't want, the first one's not, but those middle 3, definitely unique to Louisville, right? Distilled spirits, franchising, horse racing. When you think about Louisville, Kentucky, you think about bourbon, you think about horses, and you think about Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? But you probably think about other things too. Franchising does go well beyond fast food, though. I do hope people realize that it's one of the fastest growing and most profitable business models in the world. So we teach you, if you're interested in that, all about how that model works. But we also still offer electives. If one of these 5 don't interest you, and if this is not something you want to do, we also offer a lot of individual electives that you can take that satisfies your degree requirements that still allows you to tailor and specialize what you're learning and how you're learning it. My favorite is when people sometimes will do this quite often, actually, who will get a certificate, but they look at the electives and, oh, Dr. Goldman, I gotta say, I got to know more about AI. Like, what's going on with that? There's a lot of things happening. I'm using it. My coworkers are using it, but nobody seems to really know what they're using it for. We're still trying to figure all this out. Like, what's the future of this? What's this going to be in 5 years? I might suggest taking a course like AI and Business Innovation. It's one of our brand new courses. We just started it this year. Last year, we started offering a course called Business Applications of AI. That's a little bit more broad, but it's one that, again, I think about courses like that and these new topics that are emerging in real time over the last couple of years. We've tried to build and keep up with that through our electives in particular so that you can have that level of specialty and that you can leave your MBA degree not just knowing about these topics and knowing about what's happening in a more modern workplace, but you're getting real hands-on experience with something like AI, which I think is really important in today's age. All right, Matt, next slide, please. We put it at the end for a reason, folks. I could talk about this for a whole hour, and I'm sure my colleagues prefer I don't, but man, I do love our global trips. They are an optional part of the program, meaning you do not have to complete one of these, but don't you want to? I mean, that's always the answer of the question that I ask because it's embedded in a couple of ways. Number one, you get credit for it. You get actual credit hours for participating in this, which is really neat and unique. And so it's truly a learning experience that you can incorporate into your MBA. A lot of the expenses can be embedded as well into the program. And what I mean by that, I don't want to speak out of turn, or I'm not going to give you any kind of itemized receipts or things of what to expect on that yet, because you'll get all that information after you get started in the program. But the biggest expense that students take on themselves personally is that of their flights. And again, flights these days, I don't want to tell you anything that you probably don't know, can be a little expensive. So I'm not trying to discredit or dismiss that because they can be. But some of the flights, like I'm looking at that bottom left corner there, those folks, I believe Santiago, that's in Chile. I was there myself a couple of years ago. I believe that flight, if memory serves, was under $1,000, somewhere in the $700-800 range, to go to Chile and then Argentina. So typically we will go to 2 countries very near an approximation to each other while we're on these trips. It's a 10-day trip total with a couple of days built in for travel. You see here on the screen, we got South Africa represented, Cambodia, Thailand, Dubai, India. I have been very fortunate that I've been to most of these places with our students, and I just have to say they are life-changing, transformative trips for those who take advantage of them. And I mean that sincerely. What do I mean by that? Or can you give us an example, Dr. Goldman? Well, we go and we talk to a lot of business leaders while we're there. So you're getting to kind of see the behind the scenes of international business at a level and with perspective that it's going to be really hard to do otherwise. We have travel partners that we work with to help us arrange all these details, but it's truly unique just in that regard. Number two, you're traveling with a group of peers, some of them in the online MBA, some of them in other graduate programs in the College of Business, that sometimes you just bond with immediately and become lifelong friends with. I say that I'm in several group messages still. I'm trying to get out of some of them, but I'm in several group messages still of people who traveled together, years ago, who they're still in contact with each other. They're still talking to each other. They're still connecting with each other. They're still celebrating, their career accomplishments and things with each other. And I love that. Again, that speaks to the online but not alone mentality. Better than I can, better than I ever could, because those are relationships that have formed and that will endure long after graduation. And I think that's really important, especially in an MBA program. The other thing, though, that I will say, especially to our folks who have never traveled internationally, and I know there's always a few on the call typically when I host these sessions, you need to do it. You should do it. It is something about leaving your comfort zone, something about leaving that of what you've known most of your life and experiencing something. I was just less than a year ago, I was in Southeast Asia. And then after that, I was in Dubai and I was from a small town not too far down the road here from Louisville, Kentucky. I never really envisioned personally doing that as part of my life or my career. But I'm so thankful that I have and that I've gotten to have those opportunities with our students, especially because they have transformed how I see things, how I look at things, how I look at things through a global lens far more often now than I did before. And we live in a global world. I know that sounds silly to say, but we all kind of felt that, right? During the supply chain problems of the pandemic or, during other kind of global events that we've seen. We know that the interconnectedness of our businesses, our economies, and the world is really something that very few people can really comprehend. But I think that this trip and our MBA program does a really good job of helping prepare students to do just that. So highly, highly, highly recommend this optional, but very much something that you should consider doing a trip as part of the online MBA program. Matt, next slide, please. All right, I'd like to turn just a few minutes over to my colleague Claire, and while she's talking, I will also go back through the chat, make sure that there's some questions in there I didn't get to. I'll try to get to those, but I'd like to introduce Claire, who is, again, a team member of ours in the College of Business. But Claire, I hope you don't mind me saying, also somebody who has some very in-depth knowledge of the OMBA program herself, to talk a little bit about the upcoming application deadlines and some of the things coming up after this call. Claire?
Great, thank you. So if you are interested in applying for an August start, then our deadlines are listed on the slide. So our priority deadline is May 1st, which is very soon. So no worries there, but we do have an extended kind of deadline, just a regular deadline for domestic students of August 1st. And then if you are interested in a spring start, so a January start, the priority deadline is November 1st, and then the deadline for domestic students is December 1st. If you are an international student, then there are some different deadlines, but if you have questions about those deadlines, let me know. They're a little bit sooner than the domestic deadline, but only by about a month.
Thank you, Claire. And do you want to speak just a little bit about scholarships and funding? And maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about the international piece yet. We can certainly follow up as well with students who have questions about international degrees.
For sure, yeah. So within the College of Business, when you apply for a graduate program, you are automatically considered for merit-based scholarship. So we review all of our applicants based on kind of like a holistic review of your application materials. So your personal statement, your resume, your transcripts from any previous institution. We require 2 letters of recommendation. And then we also require just the general application online. So we also accept external scholarship or outside scholarship. So if you have funding through a different, organization or a community, I don't know, like organization that you're in, if you have any tuition remission through your employer or professional development funds, we will accept those funding opportunities. So outside scholarships, professional development funds is definitely worth looking into because that can stack on top of whatever general merit scholarship you might be considered for internally. For financial aid, we also encourage students to apply for the FAFSA. So this is the federal aid form that is through the federal government, and that basically allows you to see what funding you can get through state government and federal government in terms of any grants or loans. I will say on the graduate level, a master's degree is considered a privilege, or it's not a necessary degree. And so there is not a lot of gift aid or grant money associated with the master's. So most of the FAFSA funding is going to be in a loan type format. And then we also have some loan options for international students. So we work with third-party companies like Empower and Prodigy Finance to work with international students to get different loans with, reasonable rates for international students. We have payment plans, and then we usually refer students to our financial aid office to kind of work out any specific questions that they have because every student is different in terms of their kind of scholarship and funding opportunities too. Like I mentioned before, I've jumped the gun. Our admission checklist is here. So we just ask that you start an account through UofL, and that will allow you to go back and forth in your application. Again, 2 letters of recommendation, a professional resume. On the application, you will have to answer 2 short answer prompts. I think there's 6 or 7 that are offered. You just have to pick 2. They're not as specific to that we recommend, but they are a little bit more broad. So questions are kind of like, tell us a time that you were a leader or that you practice self-motivation or self-discipline or something like that. So we just encourage you to pick 2 of those. Your personal statement, so why you were interested in pursuing an MBA, why specifically at the University of Louisville, any of your short-term, long-term goals. So a lot of you have mentioned why you're interested in an MBA in the chat. I would use that and just expand upon it. That is a really great look into your motivations for wanting to expand your leadership skills or going down the path in your career and just building upon it. Any college transcripts, and then if you are an international student, we will need an English language proficiency exam. So that can be the TOEFL or the Duolingo. And then we do not require the GMAT or the GRE, so any of the standardized tests, but if you want to take it, you can. And if you want to submit your score to be considered for additional scholarship consideration, you can, but it is not a requirement for admission or scholarship consideration.
Thank you, Claire. And there's a question here in the chat. I'm going to summarize here, but I'm a U.S. citizen. However, my degree is international from Nepal. Trying to understand how this will work and getting enrolled into the program. I think it may be best, and Claire, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we get this student connected with our admissions team. That way they can work directly with them to go through that and make sure that they have all the information that they need and it's specific to them and their university. Do you agree? And if so, can we drop maybe Melanie Higgs, who's our director of graduate admission and/or our admissions service account email, if we could drop that in the chat. I think that will be the best next step for that question. Yeah, perfect. There, I was premature, Matt. Thank you. As always, Matt's there ready to go with our next steps. So yes, there is some information here. A couple things that I want to just highlight. The admissions team and the recruitment team, of which Claire is a member of, MBA at Louisville.edu. They'll make sure to answer your questions very quickly there. So appreciate them and their support. Our office, myself and Matt, we are members of the online programs office. You can see our information there, our email address. But I also have my personal information right there. Feel free if you want to take a screenshot, take a photo, or just you can Google and you'll see all kinds of links and things that you can find there for me as well to contact me. Would love to have those opportunities with our students. But I do know that we have a few minutes remaining, and I want to make sure I try to answer any other questions that are on the call tonight. I'll start with Todd's that I didn't get to earlier. He had asked what countries are usually paired with China and Brazil. We haven't been to China in the last couple of years. There's been some reasons for that. We won't go into it all at the moment. But when we were, I know the last time I think was China. I know Vietnam was around that time as well. We were going to Vietnam for a couple of years. I know that they were paired at one point together. We do, again, try to pair nearby countries. So like Cambodia, Thailand, if you're familiar with Southeast Asia, they're pretty much side by side with each other. India and the UAE as well, pretty much neighbors. So we try to do that for mostly logistical reasons, but it also gives some additional perspective. With Brazil, I believe that was Argentina. The last time we went to Brazil, that was paired with Argentina. And we love going to I love going to Argentina. I miss Argentina. Trust me, it's a beautiful part of the world and great opportunity to get down there. So hopefully we'll see some of our students down there soon. Yes, Claire, thank you. We do have, for those who are interested, especially those who have not yet done the application process, we do have an application fee waiver code that Claire just put in the chat. And so I want to encourage you to check that out. You can just copy that code. You can paste it into the information there when you go in to fill that out, and that will be something that they can do. So I'm not sure if anybody answered my question about costs. Yeah, Peyton, sorry about that. Matt, do you happen to have a calculator or anything on you? Basically, 45 divided by 38.5 cost per credit hour there. There we go. Thank you, Claire. Bundled tuition, 38.5, credit hours around 775. We do have discounted tuition opportunities for some of our military members as well. We are very fortunate to work with the University of Louisville, who has a military-connected center, our Center for Military Connected Students. Sorry, I knew I was going to mess that one up. And so we are very grateful and very appreciative of their service, our military members, and love getting to work with them where we can as well. But yeah, Peyton, I hope that answers your question, but happy to follow up as well as needed. Looking back, Matt, did I miss any others or clear anything that you saw in the chat that I didn't get a chance to address? Or does anybody want to come unmute and ask questions, what I will call the old-fashioned way now? Great question, Andrea. I'm not sure on that one. As far as the dependents go, I believe for military, I think for spouses, I forget how all that works. I promise you that we have people who are well qualified to answer those questions. So, Matt, I don't know if you can put our military contacts in there. If not, Andrea, for the question about discount for military connected dependents, mba@louisville.edu. I know those folks will be able to get you that information. Claire, I don't know if you know that off the top of your head either.
I just put in our military connected link, and that has the I guess contact information. I don't think that it is for dependents. I think it's just for active duty like members.
Excellent. Thank you, Claire.
And then I saw a question about international transcripts. We use a resource called WES, WES, that will basically translate your transcript from whatever country and whatever their GPA scale is into kind of the US standard. I think there's ECE as well. WES is the most popular, I guess, but that is an additional kind of material that if you are either an international student or you have an international degree, we would need your transcript to be translated, basically.
Thank you, Claire. Megan, love the idea. I'm not sure that's something that exists. I certainly am not aware of it, but maybe in a few years I'll be advocating for it myself. I have a couple kids who aren't quite college age yet, but once they are, I'll be looking for every discount I can find. So love though that your son is a member of UofL, and love that you're going to be hopefully joining very soon. We do have actually, fun fact, we have two right now. Parent-child relationships essentially in the online MBA program, which I think is really cool. Parent and dad and daughter, I believe, and daughter and mother. Am I correct in that, Matt? Do I remember my
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. Malcolm, I only saw fall and spring on the start dates, but do courses go summer round? Yeah. So Malcolm, we do run courses year round. Our start dates are only fall and spring. But there are summer semesters. That's part of the 20-month calendar that we'll be sure to provide you upon entry to the program. And we do have, I think, some example calendars online that we can also share. Right. Great questions. Really engaged group tonight. I love that. It certainly makes these sessions go a whole lot quicker and more enjoyable than me just talking into my screen by myself for a long time, which I've done versions of that myself. But I do want to offer just a quick closing note, if I may. Matt, I think that's our last slide, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, I do want to just offer my gratitude because I know how busy everybody is at these days. I know how much information is out there about all kinds of things, and you can try to certainly learn a lot of this online, and you can go to websites and you can ask people, and I think all those things you should do, right? You should do your homework, you should do your research, you should make sure you're making informed decisions. But I do think sessions like these, it's a chance to connect directly and hear from some of the faculty and the program director and all that. And so I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your evening for being a part of this, for joining and for your interest in the online MBA program at the University of Louisville. We're very proud of this program on behalf of the faculty, the staff, the students, the alumni, and everybody else who is involved and supports the online MBA. Thank you for your interest, and we hope that you are part of this community very, very soon, as early as this coming fall with our new start date. If not, then I know a few people on here were interested in spring 27. That too will be here before we know it. So thank you all for being part of the program and for being part of this session tonight. We appreciate you. And that being said, I hope you have a great evening, a great Derby week for those in Louisville. And if you're not in Louisville, have a great Derby week anyways. It's a global event, something we can all take some pride in here in Louisville. I hope your bets, if you're a betting person, go well. But I hope more than anything, you have a great rest of your week, and we hope to see you in the online MBA program very soon. Go Cards, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Jane. Yeah, absolutely. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Jane?
Yeah, it's Jane.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Yeah, I'll certainly, let me just go ahead and drop, well, one, you got my email right there on the screen. Let me just go ahead and put this in
Okay.
here. This is my personal information if you want to follow up with me directly. Yeah, we certainly want to work with our students, you know, as far as scheduling and things go. We're kind of limited right now with our cohort model and with the university's readmission plan, but we are working on that. We're trying to work with the university. We had meetings about that this morning, actually. So we do recognize there's a lot of folks like yourself out there that this impacts.
Mhm.
If I could snap my fingers and change it, you rest assured I would. But
Oh,
we
I
are,
understand.
yeah, but we're working on that. Right now, we don't have a part-time online MBA program specifically, but we do have a part-time online MSBA program that may be something that you're interested in. If not, I can talk to you more one-on-one about some of the what I will call workarounds that people have tried, but they all present their own challenges. I mean, for instance,
Yeah.
you can start with some of our certificate programs as an example, and that's something that you can take individual courses on and build your way up to at least get your elective credits out of the way. You know, that's something that has been done by UofL employees somewhat successfully, in my opinion. So there's steps like that, but eventually there is a friction point that comes up where it's hard to make that work throughout the whole program. So yeah, I'm happy to sit down, kind of walk you through what I've seen will go well for people, what I've seen, you know, people struggle with, but
Okay.
also just share with you what we're trying to do long term. So even if it's not something that immediately benefits you, that might, you know, in the future be something that does come to fruition.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on the call tonight.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thanks,
Good
Matt.
evening.